What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a few people, okay, to help me to explain. Okay, to explain what is this nuclear reactor, what is inside the nuclear reactor. They are going to help me to explain. Okay, as you know, we have been working on this project since last year, and I have always wanted for this project to be displayed lah. Okay, to be displayed and to be presented somehow. Okay, using using our classes or whatever lah. So I had always wanted them to present this thing that they have done in a class. So today we're going to be listening to them. Okay, so I'm going to call them in. Okay, they are Jeremy, Nigel, and Haris. Okay, hi guys. Okay, so these people are going to help me today to talk about the nuclear reactor. Okay, what goes on inside the nuclear reactor and the components in the nuclear reactor. So for those of you who are following our stream, please listen carefully, okay, to what they have to say. It's pretty long, okay, I know it's pretty long, but I hope it is interesting and exciting, just as I'm very excited to listen to them. But do lend them your ears, okay, and as always, if you have any questions, please write it down in the live chat, okay, and then we will try to answer when they are finished with their explanation. Okay, so over to you guys. All the best.
Hi.
Okay, let's start the what do we call this? Teaching now. We're what? Okay, we're going to teach you. We're going to present about nuclear reactor, how it produces the electrical energy for today. So me and my team, Nigel, Haris, and me, are going to explain all about the nuclear reactor for today. So before I start, I'm going to give a short introduction about what's going on. So, for a long time, humans have actually thought that energy and mass is not related in any way. But we know that that's not really the case. Because a few decades ago, a brilliant guy called Einstein discovered that mass and energy somehow are related. The thing that he found out was famously described in the famous equation E equals mc squared, that matter that have mass can be converted into energy. And by that means, humans can now harness the energy inside the atom for their own use. And the way they did it is by using something called nuclear reactor. So in the previous part, we have learned that a radioisotopes or radioactive atom will decay and gives out energy. That's basically the energy that is harnessed inside the nuclear reactor. So in today's segment, me and my team decided to explain how a nuclear reactor works. So just keep in mind, we are just a 17 years old kid, just like you guys. We barely mastered anything in the topic of nuclear physics, but we did some research and hopefully we can teach this topic with ease. So right now, I'm going to pass this time to my friend Haris. He's going to explain how you can access the teaching tool that we have created. Haris, over to you.
Thank you, Jeremy, for the introduction. Hi guys, Assalamualaikum, good morning. Today, I'm going to teach you guys how to download the map and use it. So first, you should go to our website, which is gg.gg/NEIB reactor. After that, you go to the nuclear reactor section, you click the arrow, and you click how to access the NEIB reactor. After that, you should scroll down, and there will be two download buttons. One is for the educational edition and one is for the pocket edition. If you are using your laptop, your PC or anything selain your phones, you should click the education edition. And if you're using your mobile devices, you should click the download link for the pocket edition one. Okay, after you click download, I'm going to give you an example. For me, I'm using my education edition. So after clicking this, just drag it to anywhere. You put the file anywhere you feel comfortable. For me, I put it on my desktop. When you download it, it will be a zip file. So what you need to do is you should rename it you just delete the dot. You suggest delete the .zip and just leave the .mcworld. We will change into a file that can be imported into your Minecraft. Okay, after that, open up your Minecraft Education Edition, sign in using the account that the government has gave you, which was the MOE one. After that, click play, click import, and just select the world that you just downloaded. You have successfully imported it. Now, you just need to access the world. Okay, Jeremy, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Okay, thank you, Haris, for the good explanation. So, friends, we gladly present to you our own teaching tool for the nuclear power plant segment. It's basically an entire nuclear power plant built inside the game called Minecraft. Now, right off the bat, when you enter the world, you'll notice that the giant cooling tower, like base that you have saw earlier from the previous slide, are nowhere to be seen. That's because we choose not to add it into our design. Another thing you might notice is we are on an island. Well, that also will be explained soon. So we actually did not follow the usual design of a nuclear power plant that you might have seen in movies or TV shows. We actually follow what's called a SMR nuclear reactor design, which stands for Small Modular Reactor. It is literally self-explanatory, and it's a small nuclear reactor. So our component and everything are located below ground. This is to save spaces, and if an accident may happen, we just explode the ground on top and bury the nuclear reactor. Of course, that's a joke. So, now before I explain the rest of the generation energy part, I would like you to ask yourself, what's the first picture to pop out of your head when you think about nuclear? Well, of course, most of you will think about nuclear bombs. I don't really blame you, because that's basically what we are learning today, but with just a little twist. Now moving on, upon entering the reactor building, you'll notice a lot of buttons. The gray color button and the brown color button is just basically a few sort of computer, if you will, and it tells you stuff and act as a tour guide during the learning process. But I won't be using that tour guide for today. I'll be explaining it to you manually because that's the point of me doing the explanation. So right here we have the button to enter the reactor core itself. We'll be getting into that later. But for now, let me show you what is the key component for a working nuclear power plant. So let's go to the component and everything. Okay, so just like a normal power plant, it needed a place to generate energy. Here we have a reactor core. After the reactor core, we have the steam generator, and after that we have turbine, and after turbine we have the generator, and finally we have the step-up transformer. Now keep in mind, all of these components are very essential for every power plant to work. Okay, move on. We will start again by learning how the energy inside the atom is harnessed. Have a guess. What's the process that involved? Redstone.
Wih nah, kenapa nih?
I think the redstone is broken.
Yap. Error. Sorry guys.
So have a guess, what's the process that involved in the harness of energy inside atom? So, I bet this looks familiar. It's actually the radioactive decay process, by which this structure can also represent nuclear fission. Now, nuclear fission, as you all have learned previously, is just the splitting of atoms, which in the process releases energy. And where did the energy come from? It's actually the result of what we call mass defect after the splitting of atoms. Basically, what it means is, after a fission reaction, the daughter atom after the fission reaction, when add up together, the mass won't be exactly equal to the parent atom. And where did the lost mass go? It's actually converted into energy, heat energy to be precise. Now, this particular fission reaction only happens if a fast-moving neutron is bombarded to the radioisotopes. And after that, the atom will split into more stable atom, and in the process releases a ton amount of energy as heat. Later, you will see why this particular way of generating energy is amazing and scary at the same time. So, we have here a radioisotopes. Mainly, we use what's called uranium. So, it's represented by the yellow color blocks. And the nuclear fission is started by bombarding the uranium with fast-moving neutron and causes the unstable uranium to split into other more stable atoms, which in that reaction also emit huge heat energy, which is due to the lost mass or mass defect. Basically, uranium atom which then trigger the splitting of nearby atom, which then repeated the process. Now what you have here is actually what we call chain reaction. Well, you might ask, wouldn't that mean like a nuclear bomb? Essentially it is. That's basically how a nuclear bomb works. But there's this particular kind of magic rod that can calm the reaction. And with that, I would also like you to ask yourself a question. What will happen if the fission reaction become uncontrollable? And with that said, I'll invite my friend Nigel to explain the key component, a few key components inside the reactor, nuclear power plant reactor. Okay, Nigel, I'll pass this time to you.
So, hi, good morning everyone. So, first and foremost, we are going to explore the first and probably the most important component in the reactor, the nuclear reactor core. Now pay attention, because this is how the energy is generated. So, we have a few. As for now, we use a radioisotope called uranium. There is also another kind of radioisotope that's still in research, that is thorium. Now, we have a uranium or thorium fuel rod inside the nuclear reactor core. Now, the way nuclear fission reaction is by making the unstable uranium be split by a fast-moving neutron, and when the neutron collides with the uranium atom in the rod, it will spontaneously trigger a fission reaction. And about fission reaction, it will trigger more atoms to split in a chain. You can imagine a huge ton of heat energy building up. A rod called boron control rod functions to control the fission reaction. Now, how it works is that fission releases neutron. Well, this particular rod absorbs the neutron, which means less neutron will be in the system, and thus less neutron collide with the uranium atom, hence less fission reaction. Now, water is filled up inside the nuclear reactor core to prevent overheating and to serve as a heat conductor. Now, there is this certain type of liquid that is usually used in nuclear reactor as the moderator is what we call heavy water, which works by slowing down the high kinetic energy of the neutron. When the energy is lowered, the reactivity is slowed down. Hence, the heat building up in the reaction is decreased. Now you know what's happening inside the reactor core. Let's take a long walk outside the core, and if you notice, inside the core is a white wall, which essentially we try to recreate it as steel, and outside the core is just concrete. But both of this wall is important so that no gamma radiation is leaked out and killing the nuclear reactor workers. Next, now we have understand how heat energy is generated. We should take a look on how heat energy is converted to electrical energy. Since heat energy is already produced, heat energy is then used to boil the water into steam, and that process undergo inside the component we call steam generator. A huge amount of steam is produced. Then, the steam is compressed, now possess high kinetic energy. The energy of the steam plays a part for the next process which we are going next. This is the turbine. So, remember previously that the steam possesses high energy. Steam is used to drive the turbine, so the turbine will turn with a high velocity. This is what we thought the turbine might look like if it were going to build inside Minecraft. Obviously, we cannot copy it entirely like in real life, but as long as it serves its purpose to turn, then it's fine. Now remember, all of this process is important for the next component to work. In this case right now, we have a turbine getting its kinetic energy from the steam and thus turns the turbine. So now I pass this time to Jeremy back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nigel, for the good explanation. So right now, I'm going to continue about explaining how the electrical energy is produced. Okay, so this is where we get our price. Can you guess why? We have here a generator, which essentially how it works is the spinning of the turbine previously provide the essential kinetic energy for the magnet to be rotated or spin around the coil. Well, for now, you might be so confused. What's magnet have to do with the generation of electricity? Hold on, I'm going to explain it in just a bit. So, the generation of electrical current in any power plant is based on what we call electromagnetic induction. You might get even more confused. Well, don't worry, you will all learn this in Chapter 3, Electromagnetism. So, I won't bother to explain the whole chapter to you, but essentially how it works is electrical current is generated with magnetic field. Well, of course, that's not a full explanation about electromagnetic induction, but my main aim here is to teach about nuclear reactor and not about electromagnetic induction. So, let's look to the next component. Now, just to recap the whole thing, we had a control nuclear bomb that is undergoing control nuclear fission, which produce heat, and the heat is used to heat up the water. The water becomes steam, steam drive turbine, and finally, turbine drive generator. But there's one problem. The lights at the city still isn't on. Well, that's because we haven't reached the transmission of electricity. So I have here my amazing friend again, Nigel. He's going to explain the transmission part and why you should be thankful about this knowledge that you just gained. Nigel, over to you.
Thank you. So hi once again. So we got another section to talk about, the transmission section. I will try to keep this part short and hopefully after this section you'll be able to apply a job at SCSB. So right after the electricity is produced, we wanted a way that we can transfer and transmit the electrical current. But that's a bit of a catch. We are at a stranded island far away from the mainland and the city. For sure, electrical energy will be lost when you reach the mainland. And where is our cable anyway? The two question is exactly what I'm going to answer now. So there is this problem that if we transmit an electrical current for a long journey, only tiny of the current will make it, and the rest will be converted into heat energy. Now, how do we fix that? Well, we have to increase something. We have to increase the potential difference, that is the voltage. It can be done by using a fairly clever component we call a step-up transformer. Now, how the step-up transformer works is basically by the same principle that was used in the generator, electromagnetic induction. The secondary coil has more turns than the primary coil, which causes the voltage to increase. There you go, but remember, there was another problem. Where is our cable? Since we are on a stranded island far away from mainland, we decided to go with a rather fascinating design, that is to put our cable down there in the ocean. It's called a submarine cable. This is what the submarine cable looks like. Beautiful, isn't it? It is far more practical since we are far away and all that around us is water. Now, since you know all this, you can now apply a job at SCSB. Now I pass this time back to Jeremy.
Okay, thank you, Nigel, again. So, upon reaching the mainland, the electrical current that just now have been transmitted from the cable cannot be directly linked to the house and building. The electrical power needed to be lowered before being distributed to the building and houses. And that's the job of the substation which you are looking at right now. Now, congratulations, all of you have reached the final part of the segment. Right now, we'll let you admire the knowledge that you just have gained by showing you the view of the city.
Shout out to Tong and Luther for helping us to build. Oh. Okay, Angel. Up.
So, there is one more thing I forgot to talk about. Why the nuclear reactor is built on an island. You realize that. So, we built on an island is because when something happens, like a malfunction or explosion happen, it will be far away from the city. Remember, there will be effect, but the effect will be less. And the effect will be less towards the people and other living things near the explosion.
Okay. So with that said, we should all appreciate the knowledge that we just gained and use it wisely only for the greater good of others. With that said, remember the question I asked you guys earlier? What will happen if the fission reaction becomes uncontrollable? Well, I'm going to leave you with this to answer the question. Aris, go ahead.
Lah. On ka to.
Oh my god.
Dramatic.
That's pretty amazing.
Thank you, Lajar.
Okay, thank you for listening to our rather fascinating presentation. Hopefully you learned something new today. And thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks guys for helping us with this. So that was our project. There were 7 people. There were 7 of us, 7 students. Okay, and myself. We were working on it since last year. If I could see you all now, I would probably ask you to give them a round of applause, but it's okay. I'm sure you are clapping wherever you are. Okay, so thanks guys for explaining to us what happens, what are the key components in a nuclear reactor,